The Harrington estate looked peaceful from the outside. A vast stretch of manicured lawns, a long drive bordered with lanterns, and the towering mansion built of stone and quiet wealth. But inside, behind the polished doors and velvet curtains, something was wrong. Deeply wrong. Nina Ramirez tightened her grip on her medical bag as she stepped into the main hall. She had only been the twins' private nurse for 3 weeks, but the change in them had been too sudden, too sharp to ignore. One day they were laughing and running through the yard, chasing each other around the fountains, and the next both lay in bed with pale faces and trembling hands, clinging to her whenever she entered the room. Their father, Marcus Harrington, stood by the window, now tall, composed, handsome in that distant, guarded way the elite often were. But today, he looked frayed at the edges. His jaw was tight. His eyes carried shadows. "They didn't sleep again," he said without turning around. Nina nodded softly. "I could tell. They look exhausted." They woke screaming. His voice was flat, but the strain beneath it pulsed like a heartbeat. Both of them, same time. Her brows knit. Did they say why? Marcus finally turned. His charcoal suit fit perfectly, his tie sharp, but nothing about him felt controlled tonight. "They said they smelled something wrong." Nina's breath stilled. Marcus walked closer, lowering his voice. "You've seen children panic from nightmares. This wasn't that. They were terrified. My son wouldn't even let go of my shirt." Nina held her medical bag tighter. "I'll check them again," she said gently. "We'll figure it out." Marcus nodded but didn't step away. He lowered his voice even more. "I trust you, Nina, more than anyone else in this house." He hesitated. "They trust you, too." She didn't respond. She couldn't not with the way his eyes lingered on hers, something quietly desperate flickering behind them. She made her way up the grand staircase, each step echoing through the silent mansion. The twins' room was at the end of the hallway. Bright murals painted across the walls clouds, forests, little adventures meant for 2 curious children. But tonight, it felt cold. When Nina entered, the twins Emmett and Elise sat curled up in the middle of the bed, blankets pulled to their chests. Their faces lit up the moment they saw her. "Nina," Elise whispered, reaching for her. "Did you smell it again?" Emmett asked, voice trembling. Nina knelt beside them. "Not yet, but you'll show me, okay? You'll tell me when it happens." They nodded, small bodies shaking. Nina examined them carefully. Their temperatures were normal, their breathing steady. Their symptoms didn't match any illness she knew. Not food poisoning, not infection, not allergies. Then why were they sick? Why both at the same time? She tucked them back under the blanket and looked around the room with narrowed eyes. Something felt off. A cold draft brushed the back of her neck, and then there it was, faint, barely noticeable, a smell, sharp, metallic, wrong. Nina froze. Elise whimpered. "You smell it too." Nina didn't answer. She moved slowly across the room, following the scent. It wasn't coming from the window, not from the vents, not from the bathroom. She paused beside the closet. Something about it felt still, heavy, as if the air around it didn't belong in a child's room. She reached for the doorknob and stopped. The smell intensified. Her heart thudded. She slowly opened the door. Nothing but clothes, shoes lined neatly. Boxes stacked in the corner. She crouched, bringing her face closer to the floor. The smell grew stronger. "Is someone upstairs?" she whispered to herself. No. The closet had no vents, no opening except. Her eyes widened. a tiny crack between the floorboards, barely half an inch, too small for anything to fit through, too intentional to be an accident. That's when she noticed the inside of the floorboard edge darkened, as if stained. Nina's breath caught. This wasn't a child's illness. It was something hidden, something beneath the room. She reached out, fingertips brushing the crack, when a voice behind her made her jump. "What are you doing?" Marcus stood in the doorway, eyes sharp, breath uneven, as if he'd hurried upstairs. Nina rose quickly, brushing dust from her knees. "There's something wrong in here," she told him quietly. "A smell. It's strong near the closet." Marcus stepped closer, tension cutting through his features. "What kind of smell?" "Metallic," she whispered. "Rotten, not normal." He clenched his jaw. A muscle ticked in his cheek. "Show me." Nina pointed at the crack. Marcus crouched, leaning in close. The smell hit him instantly. His expression darkened. "That shouldn't be there," he said under his breath. "This room was renovated last year." "Marcus," Nina hesitated. "What's under this room?" His eyes flicked up to hers, and something in them shifted fear, guilt, something deep she couldn't read. "Storage," he finally said. "Just storage." But his voice wasn't steady. Nina swallowed. "I need to see it." Marcus sucked in a slow breath. He looked at the twins shaken, clinging to each other, and something cracked inside him. He nodded. He didn't say another word. He just stood, walked toward the back hallway, and motioned for Nina to follow. And as she walked after him, one thought chilled her deeper than the draft from the floorboards. Whatever was making the children sick. Marcus already knew it wasn't an illness, and he was afraid she'd found the first clue. Marcus led Nina down a narrow servants' hallway she hadn't used before, his steps brisk but tense, his silence unnerving. The further they walked from the kiwi, warm glow of the living spaces, the colder the air became. The lights flickered once, then steadied. Nina felt the weight of something unspoken pressing between them. At the end of the hall, Marcus unlocked a heavy wooden door and pushed it open. A staircase spiraled down into darkness. "This is the only access to the storage level," he said, voice low. "No one uses it but staff." "Do you?" Nina asked softly. He hesitated. "Not anymore." That answer chilled her more than the draft rolling up the stairs. They descended, their footsteps echoing. The lower level was dim, lit by a few aging wall lamps, boxes, old furniture, covered statues. It looked like any other wealthy family's storage space. Except there it was again. The smell, much stronger down here. Metallic, thick, wrong. Nina covered her nose. "It's coming from the back." Marcus stiffened, but he nodded. Together, they made their way toward a door at the far end. Marcus reached for the handle but stopped when Nina placed a hand on his arm. "Marcus," she whispered, "what are you afraid I'll find behind this door?" For a moment, he didn't breathe. Then he looked at her with a raw honesty he hadn't shown anyone. "My wife died 2 years ago," he said. "Here, in this house." Nina's heart pounded. "Here, down here," he nodded once. "She fell, or that's what they said. I never believed it." "What does this have to do with the twins?" Marcus swallowed. "She spent hours down here before she died, locked herself inside that room." Silence thickened. "And the smell?" Nina asked. "It started the night before she—" He stopped, unable to finish. Nina felt a tremor in her chest. "Marcus, you should have told me." "I didn't want to frighten you," he whispered. "Or the children." Nina slowly turned the handle. The door creaked open. Inside was a small, unfinished storage room. Bare walls, concrete floor, no windows. But the smell hit her full force, heavy, sharp, and unmistakable. Chemical. Something had spilled, or been spilled. A dark stain spread across the floor, seeping into the cracks like old blood. Nina gasped softly. "This is why the children are sick," she murmured. "There's something toxic under their room. It's seeping upward." Marcus's face broke pain, guilt, fury mixing in a way that nearly brought him to his knees. "I should have torn this house apart when she died," he said, voice shaking. "I should have looked. I should have—" Nina stepped toward him, placing a steady hand on his shoulder. "You're not too late." He looked at her, really looked, and something shifted in his expression, something vulnerable and intense. "I trust you," he whispered, "more than anyone." She held his gaze. "Then let me help you." Marcus exhaled shakily as if releasing years of fear. "We'll move the twins tonight," he said, "and tomorrow this entire floor is coming apart." Nina nodded. As they walked back upstairs, Marcus kept close beside her, his hand brushing hers, once hesitant, but full of unspoken emotion. And when they reached the twins' room again, the children ran into Nina's arms with relief. Marcus watched her, the fear in his eyes replaced by something deeper, something like gratitude, something like connection, something like the beginning of trust.